Hi, it's me Jacqueline. Welcome to my channel. If you're new to the channel, then please subscribe my channel and visit my Patreon page, link in the description. On Tuesday afternoon, Nicole, Suzanne, and Lisbeth were catering another party, so Aunt Sharon dropped me off at the station. Mom came along with us to learn the way to the station, but neither came inside. Mom told me call when I was ready to come home. I was welcomed back warmly by many at the station's Christmas party. The party had started in the early afternoon with the first shift, then slowed as people went home and the second shift prepared for the 6 o'clock broadcast. I had arrived just before the broadcast began and barely had time to say hello to a few folks before they had to leave to prepare for the broadcast. I walked to the studio so I'd have a chance to see the woman who had replaced me, Marcy Clancy, in action. She seemed like an effective anchor, although a bit stiff. When Don made a few witty comments about different stories, she just ignored his comments as if he wasn't sitting next to her and moved on to the next story. 5 minutes before the end of the broadcast, Don said, on camera, "A couple of days ago we announced that Marcy would be leaving us at the end of the year and moving to Chicago. The new co-anchor that will be taking her place is here in the studio tonight, and maybe I can get her to come over to the desk." He motioned to me and I walked over behind the broadcast desk so I'd be facing the cameras, taking a position between Dawn and Marcy. A sound technician hurried over with an earphone and mic. I didn't have time to run the wires beneath my clothes, so I just clipped the mic on my blouse and held the small transmitter box. "Our regular viewers will recognize Ashley James," Dawn had said as I was receiving the sound equipment. Ashley joined us here at the station this past summer, filling in as our weather person while Paula was on maternity leave, and then filling in as co-anchor until Marcy arrived to replace Kay Peterson. She's not wearing makeup and may appear a bit pale to our audience, but I assure that she's even more beautiful than she was last summer. When Marcy announced that she would be leaving, station management tracked Ashley down and convinced her to rejoin us at the station. "Welcome back, Ashley." I smiled and said, "Thank you, Dawn. I'm really excited about returning to the KBXF-TV family. I've missed everyone here tremendously since returning home in September. And we're happy to have you back with us. This time it's not just a temporary summer position, folks. Ashley will be with us weekdays at 6 and 10, starting on Monday, the 3rd of January. Have you found a place to live yet, Ashley? We're staying with my aunt, uncle, and cousins while we search for a house. Are you looking to rent or buy?" "Right now we're looking to rent, because we'll have to wait until we close on our old house before we can afford to buy, but once we close, we'll be in the market to buy a house here." "There you have it, folks," Dawn said. "If you have a quality house available, at a reasonable price, leave a message here at KBXF for Ashley." That's the news for tonight, December 23rd. I'm Dawn Baden with Marcy Clancy, Paula Bannister, and Ashley James, wishing you a very good night from KBXF. The weather person, who I assume to be Paula Bannister, joined us at the news desk and we talked among ourselves as the lights dimmed, until the control room said, "And we're off." "Good job, everybody." "Welcome back, Ashley." The room lights came up and a sound tech moved in to collect all the transmitters. I was formally introduced to Marcy and Paula, and we talked for a few minutes before they left for makeup to get cleaned up. I spent some time talking with the technicians before walking to the newsroom where the party was being held. Fresh food platters and desserts had been put out and people were sitting at or on desks or standing around, chowing down on the free food and beverages. For me, it was like going to a class reunion dinner, and I walked around renewing the friendships that I had made during the summer. "Hello, Ashley," I heard from behind me and turned to see Mr. Graham and Mr. Pylora approaching me. "Welcome back, Ashley," Mr. Pylora said. "Hi, Mr. Graham." "Hi, Mr. Pylora. All ready to start work?" Mr. Pylora asked. "Absolutely," I said, smiling. "I'm becoming more excited with each passing day." "Wonderful," Mr. Pylora said. "We're excited to have you back with us." Lowering his voice, he said, "It will be nice to have someone with a personality in the co-anchor chair next to Dawn." Marcy hasn't cracked a smile at any of Dawn's comments since she arrived here. I noticed that she did seem unusually focused tonight. Not just tonight, but every night. She prepares herself well and does a very competent job of reading the news, but that's all she does. She doesn't convey a sense of warmth or personality to the audience. You're still the only one who has ever ad-libbed a line when the smiley face appeared during their broadcast test. We've missed that spontaneity, and we're delighted to have you back. Thank you, I said, smiling. I could feel myself blushing slightly from the embarrassment caused by such a direct compliment. Speak of the devil, Mr. Pylora said under his breath. I turned and saw Dawn and Marcy enter the newsroom, probably coming directly from makeup. They saw us and walked over to where we were standing. Dawn smiled and said, "This looks like a happy group, but I don't see a single alcoholic beverage in hand." "I have a good excuse," I said, smiling. "I'm too young." "And we have another broadcast at 10 to get through first," Mr. Graham said, with a lot of emphasis on the we. Dawn never missed a beat, saying, "Yeah, isn't it terrible the way work interferes with our holiday festivities and favorite pastimes?" He put on a lopsided grin and drooped his eyes in imitation of a drunk that had already had a large portion from every bottle on the small bar, but I knew that he was a professional who wouldn't imbibe until his last broadcast for the day was completed. Marcy, on the other hand, looked like someone who needed a drink desperately. Not because she was experiencing the effects of detoxification, but simply because the alcohol might loosen her up and lighten her mood. "Someone told me you're only 16 years old. Ashley," Marcy asked me, fixing an intense stare on me. "Is that true?" "Yes, until April 28th. "Then you must still be in high school?" "Yes, I'm in my 11th year." "That's amazing. You have to be one of the youngest, if not the youngest, news anchors in television broadcasting." We looked into it and discovered that a 12-year-old girl is currently broadcasting the news at a small station somewhere along the Alaskan border with Canada, Mr. Pylora said. "But their audience consists of only about 100 families," Mr. Graham said, "and the station is in her parents' home. Her father is the entire technical staff, and her mother does everything else. Their annual station budget is less than $25,000. "I'd hardly call that 12-year-old a news anchor," Marcy said. "In fact, with an audience of just 100 homes, she just barely qualifies as a broadcaster." "Have you done any reporting, Ashley, or only been on air as a temporary fill-in for absent weather persons and news co-anchors?" I guess it was the condescending way she said it, rather than her actual words, but Mr. Pylora took exception to her statement. "Ashley covered a number of stories for us last summer," he said. "She did an excellent job on every assignment, including her 2-hour live coverage of the July 4th parade from our broadcasting stand. She also did live coverage of the tanker accident on the interstate highway that closed down the road for hours, and her reporting was picked up by our affiliates and rebroadcast around the country. Ashley was offered the co-anchor chair on a permanent basis before you were hired," Dawn said, also taking umbrage at the tone of her comments, "but she was only here visiting and decided to return home at the end of the summer." "And what prompted you to move here now?" Marcy asked me, apparently oblivious to the tensions she was creating. "Mr. Graham," I said simply. "I called to let him know that I'd be available for any open positions next summer, and he informed me that you were planning to move to a larger market. You didn't waste any time getting here." "I've missed the community, the station, and the job since leaving on Labor Day, and moving during the holiday recess at school made things easier. Besides, the job is too important to remain empty for long." It wouldn't have been empty. I couldn't leave until my replacement arrived, or my contract expired. I wasn't really expecting to leave until February or March. "Then you don't have another position to go to?" I asked. "No, not yet. But I've been circulating tapes of my on-air time." "I'm sorry, Marcy," Mr. Graham said, "but you requested that we terminate your contract as soon as we made arrangements for a permanent replacement, and you signed off on that contract revision. As it is, I've asked Ashley to wait an extra 2 weeks before she begins her job. I can't extend your position until you find a new job. It wouldn't be fair to Ashley." "I understand. It's my own fault for not establishing a final date." "Well, if you'll excuse me, I have to prepare for the 10 o'clock. Marcy turned on her heel and strode off towards her office. No one said a thing until she was well out of hearing range. "I guess we're all dismissed," Don said, with a silly grin on his face. She'll fit right in with a very large, impersonal staff in a major market, Mr. Pylora said. It's too bad, Mr. Graham said. She'd be an excellent addition to any staff, if only she had a personality to go along with her broadcast talent. Well, it's worked out well for us. We got Ashley back. I stayed at the station until 9:30 when the newsroom emptied out as everyone prepared for the 10 o'clock broadcast. Mom came to get me and take me home. Hi, Ashley, Nicole said as we entered the house. Welcome back. Nicole had been so busy with the catering activities that we hadn't crossed paths until then. Hi, Nicole, I said as we hugged. Thanks. It's great to be back. Mom looked a little surprised. I guess it was because I hadn't gotten along too well with Nicole since we were little. We saw the 6 o'clock news, Aunt Sharon said. It was nice the way the male news anchor welcomed you back while they were on the air. Don is a sweetheart. Anyone would be lucky to work with him. I'm fortunate that he'll be my co-anchor. I think I'd hate to have to work with Marcy every night. I feel sorry for Don. He's been working with her for 4 months. She's not friendly? Grinning, I said, I think she sucks lemons when she's in her office. The next day was busy as we decorated the house and prepared food for the Christmas dinner. The Christmas tree was set up in a corner of the basement rec room. We stayed up late on Christmas Eve and welcomed in the holiday at midnight with brandy Alexanders that Uncle Bob made. They were excellent, tasting like a frothy cocoa drink, but the one drink that I had hit me like a 5-pound brick, and I was reminded of the time that I had too much wine. I was only allowed one drink, but I wouldn't have taken another on a dare. I had no intention of waking up with pink hair in the morning. We opened most of our presents before we went to bed at 3 a.m. I realized that Uncle Bob was watching me closely as I held up the clothes that I received, but I never made eye contact with him. He hadn't criticized me or confronted me since the discussion at dinner that first night, and I had already decided that if I ever needed a defender, I would want Suzanne. She had made my situation seem perfectly normal, with my choice being the only possible solution. On Christmas Day, I was summoned to the phone when George called. We wished each other a Merry Christmas and then worked our way through a couple of awkward silences. Larry told me you were here, he said. I just ran into him last night. I guess you didn't receive my email. No, my computer died. My dad promised me a new laptop for Christmas, so I didn't get the old one fixed. I'll download all my email later today, once I get the software loaded in the new laptop. How are things at school otherwise? It's a lot different from high school, as everyone told me it would be. You have to be more disciplined and focused at college. No one is going to drive you, so you have to motivate yourself. How are things going for you? Great. I'll be back at the station in a week, and I'm as excited as could be. My mom and I have to begin searching for a house now that the holidays are over, so I'll be busy with that until it's time to start work. Maybe we can get together before I have to go back to California. That would be nice. We talked for another half hour, but never made any real plans for a date. As soon as Christmas was over, Mom, Aunt Sharon, and I began looking in earnest for a house. It would be great if we could find a house that we wanted to purchase, one that just happened to be vacant and for which the owner would hold the mortgage until we sold ours, but that was extremely unlikely. Still, when we found a house that we rated as a possible, we always asked if the seller would hold the paper until we received the money from our house in Massachusetts, or at least rent us the house with an option to buy. It would have improved the position of the house on our list. The realtor that the station had contacted tried to show us every home in her company's files and then started on the multiple listings. A drive-by was usually sufficient to eliminate most houses from consideration. Mom had told the agent what we basically wanted, but she seemed incapable of separating the wheat from the chaff on her own. The station forwarded all of the replies to Dawn's on-air appeal for a house to me, and I called everyone. Most just wanted my phone number, but a few were valid offers, and we did a drive-by to see if the house held any interest for us. Only one deserved an in-house inspection, but unfortunately, severe water damage in the basement made us back off. Please subscribe for the next part and visit my Patreon page for early access.